When I was a kid, we lived in one of those big compounds with a bunch of families. Right next to our place, there was this road that connected two nearby villages. About 200 meters down that road, there was a small graveyard with maybe a few dozen graves. That's the background. This story happened one summer in 1999. Man, that year was wild with all sorts of spooky stuff. Like, we even signed a secret deal with aliens after an invasion. Okay, that last bit's just me messing around to fill space. Anyway, it was harvest time for corn. That evening, it was getting dark and me and this neighbor kid, I'll call him Gogo, were playing by the roadside outside the compound. He was 10, I was 8. It was so hot, I went inside to cool off by the fan, leaving him out there alone. The grown-ups were busy harvesting corn and didn't have time to check on us. Maybe half an hour later, I heard a commotion outside, adults shouting. I ran out and found out Gogo was missing. The adults asked me where he was and I said he'd been right by the road earlier. So everyone started yelling his name, searching around the house. A few minutes later, we heard him. Gogo was crying, about 200 meters away down the road. The adults ran over and brought him back home. Later, I asked Gogo what happened, but he said he couldn't remember. The adults just told me not to play by the road after dark. Still, I could tell something weird was up. A few days later, I asked Gogo again, and this time he told me his side of the story. He said, after you went inside, I caught a toad by the road and was about to head home. Then this woman showed up, Yang something or other from the third production team nearby. We'd seen her tons of times at the market. She said it was getting dark and she couldn't find her way home, so she asked me to walk her part way. Since I knew her face, I didn't think twice, I just said, sure, come with me. But as we walked toward her team's direction, I got all fuzzy-headed. Then she suddenly said, you can go back now, I found the way. Right after that, I heard my parents calling my name and it snapped me out of it. I realized I was standing by the road leading to the graveyard. Freaked me out so bad I started bawling. Then my parents came and got me. After that, I told my grandparents what Gogo said. Turns out they already knew. They told me that woman from the next production team? She died a few days earlier and was buried in that graveyard. Me and Gogo had been at our own grandma's houses at the time, so we didn't know. The day after it happened, Goji's family took him to burn paper offerings for her and got a Taoist priest to draw a protective charm for him to carry. Later, when the adults were chatting at night, I heard them mention this custom. After someone's buried, their family's supposed to light torches at the grave for 7 straight days to guide their spirit back and forth. But her family finished her funeral stuff and left to work in the city before the 7 days were up. Maybe that's why she couldn't find her way in the dark and ran into Gogo. After that, we avoided that road for a long time, though the adults didn't seem bothered. Guess it's got something to do with experience. Oh, and one random thing, in ghost stories, people usually get super sick or feverish after stuff like this, but Gogo was fine, just scared. Maybe 'cause his family did the offerings. Now on to the leather shoes story. This happened when I was in middle school about a classmate I got along with in the dorms. One night, his parents had a huge fight, super nasty. His mom got so mad she grabbed him and stormed out. It was late, and they didn't bring any ID, so instead of finding a hotel, she took him to crash at her company nearby. They settled into sleep, but then they heard it, footsteps, like leather shoes clacking on the stairs, getting closer. My classmate got curious and peeked through the door's peephole. He saw a guy who looked a lot like his dad, dressed the same way he'd been that day. Thinking his dad had come to get them, he called his mom over. But she was still pissed and snapped, "Go to sleep. Nobody told your dad we're here, how would he know?" He didn't argue and went to bed, but those footsteps, asterisk, kept going closer than farther, like whoever it was wasn't gonna knock. Too curious to ignore, he got up again and looked through the peephole. Same guy, pacing the hallway. Then he crouched down and peeked under the door gap with the hallway sensor lights. He saw a pair of white leather shoes walking back and forth. Thing is, his dad never wore white shoes. Nobody in their house even owned a pair like that. Now freaked out, he called his mom again. This time, she sensed something was off too. I mean, who walks around an office building late at night? She called the security desk, asking them to check the 15th floor for some guy wandering around, and if possible, get him to leave. A bit later, security called back, asking if she'd gotten the floor wrong. Their cameras showed nothing, no guy, everything normal. She insisted it was the 15th floor. Hearing how sure she was, they said they'd send someone up. But right after she hung up, the knocking started, fast, loud, with someone yelling, "Open the door! Open the door!" She tried calling security again, but her phone had no signal. His phone? No signal. The office landline? Dead too. This was a downtown building. How could there be no signal? The knocking went on for maybe 10 minutes, then, BM, a huge bang, followed by a sigh and a creepy "what a pity." Then the footsteps faded away and the hallway lights dimmed through the door crack. They were too scared to move, just sat there on the sofa till morning when people started showing up for work. Downstairs during the shift change, his mom asked the night guard what happened. He said he'd checked the 15th floor, nothing, totally quiet. To be thorough, he even checked the floors above and below, but all clear. As they talked, an older guy taking over the shift, someone his mom knew and chatted with, sometimes overheard. He pulled her aside and my classmate eavesdropped. The old guy said, back in the early 2000s, the 15th floor was rented out by this rich guy who ran a company. Did all right for a while, but then the '08 crisis hit. His investments tanked, his wife ran off with his last bit of cash, and he ended it all up there. Since then, late-night workers sometimes report stuff like what you saw. You and that guard are new, so you wouldn't know. It only happens after midnight, daytime's fine. Just don't stay past then, and you'll be okay. Ever since, I've been freaked out by the sound of leather shoes clacking. What about you? What scares you?